Hello and welcome. You're watching Times Now with me, Priya Behel. And as we speak, the all-important BRICS meetings are underway in Kazan, in Russia. And in 45 minutes from now, the all-important bilateral between India and China, which means Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Xi Jinping is going to start. It is going to be extremely significant because it comes just days after almost over 4-year-long standoff at the LAC was resolved. Prime Minister is going to meet President Xi Jinping after 5 years. The last meeting that happened in 2019. To help us understand how important this meeting is going to be, what is going to be the impact of it in terms of bilateral relations, we are now joined by Srinjoy Chaudhary in the newsroom, as well as we have our guest who will be joining us in a little bit. Rishabh is tracking all the developments coming out of this summit. Srinjoy, first of all, tell us, how significant has it been that after 4.5-year-long what S. Jaishankar described as patient and persevering diplomacy, India and China finally could reach an agreement over disengagement at the LAC? And did the timing of this BRICS meeting play a role as a catalyst, perhaps?
Well, first of all, the fact that these two leaders are meeting is important enough because, as you rightly said, they haven't met for many years, 4.5 years. And here are two of the biggest powers in the world, economic, military, everything, and two countries that have such a long border. Now, as you rightly said, the border is the cause for problems. And India had made it very clear that till the border was sorted out, till there was disengagement, India and China India would downplay its relationship with China. And that's exactly what had happened. Now, what happens today? What happens in the meeting between these two leaders? First of all, now that disengagement is complete, and let's not forget that this problem with disengagement was not just 4 years old. The problems in Depsang and Demchok are actually before the Galwan problem. So they've been there for longer than 4 years, more than 6 or 7 years. Now the next step is de-escalation, because there are thousands of Chinese troops, PLA troops, just across the line of actual control, with their tanks, with their guns, with their air defense equipment, and all their stuff, not very far away from the LAC. They should be where they came from 4 years ago, the thousands of troops. Let's not forget how many troops they had. In one valley alone, during that crisis, the Chinese had 99 tanks in one valley. Just imagine. The Chinese had put out about 2,000 tanks in that area, in Ladakh. So all that has ended, but they are there across the line of actual control. Now they have to go back to where they came from. And that process is called de-escalation. Once de-escalation happens, then India and China will have closer ties, is what is expected. And you can expect closer economic ties. There could be more Chinese investment in India in, of course, specific sectors. Now, which sectors and all that will be decided naturally by the Indian side. But those things will follow. First of all, de-escalation is actually very crucial. And surely that will be discussed during the meeting.
All right. Joining us now are also Brahmachalani, strategic affairs expert, and J.K. Tripathi, who is a former diplomat. Mr. Tripathi, if I could come to you first. Now, tell us what goes into the engagements that happen at multiple levels. We know that there have been tens of meetings that have taken place at all levels, starting from the foreign affairs ministers to the diplomats to the corps commanders, that have finally ensured that there was a breakthrough, probably something that India could sit on the same table as Xi Jinping with at the Brics Summit.
See, India's border problem, border dispute with China is not new. It is as old as Chinese aggression in 1962, after which things changed on the ground. But even after that, the demarcation of boundary was a crucial question on which each side has a working group consisting of militaries and geologists, and it has not been resolved so far for quite some time. But after 4 years ago, after the Galwan, the new situation arose about the area, about the boundary for patrolling. And now, after 16 such meetings, after the Galwan incident, now some breakthrough has been that on Depsong and Demchok area, the respective armies, the respective troops will come back to a pre-2020, pre-Galwan incident
status
situation. So now, what remains is the actual disengagement, actual de-escalation, which is in process. Once it is achieved, only then diffusion of tension will occur. So first step, de-escalation, disengagement has been obtained, de-escalation is in process, and diffusion will follow.
All right.
Now, so many meetings at different levels took place besides this working group. That is at the level of foreign secretaries, at the level of secretaries, at the level of foreign minister. And now at the level when it is going to take place at the level of prime minister or head of the state.
Yes.
Let us hope that there is some more which will come now that a thaw has been obtained up to a certain extent. Maybe we can try to cooperate on some other issues as a confidence building measures, on some other issues where our interests or our viewpoints converge.
Mr. Ramatilani, do you think that this truce that has been reached can be a building block to bigger, better things? Perhaps one can finally take away focus from the border skirmishes and focus on the inevitable aspects like the huge amount of trade that these two countries are involved in?
You're absolutely right. But I think we are jumping the gun. We have to go by what the Indian Army chief has said. He has said that the focus right now is on restoring trust, reassuring each other. Thereafter, he said, disengagement, de-escalation, and de-induction of troops can sequentially proceed. Right now, commanders of the two sides are engaged in discussions on the modalities of the new patrolling arrangement. How do we set up this new patrolling arrangement? So there has been no disengagement thus far. This engagement will follow the new patrolling arrangement once it is finalized. But I think we are forgetting the main issue that led to the standoff between the two militaries. That standoff was triggered by China's stealth encroachments on key borderlands of eastern Ladakh. We are not asking that fundamental question. Has China now agreed to roll back those encroachments? For example, in Depsang, it intruded 18 kilometers into Indian territory. Now, under the new patrolling arrangement, both sides will withdraw a few kilometers from the present standoff site. A few kilometers, that suggests that the Chinese will remain on Indian territory, even after disengagement. Now, this is what happened with the buffer zones that came up in Galwan Valley, in Pangong, and in the hot springs Gogra, that these three major buffer zones were created largely on Indian territory. So I think we need to contain the hype and discuss the core issues. And the most fundamental issue is the Chinese incursions into eastern Ladakh.
That's perhaps also the gullibility that Jairam Ramesh of the Congress party spoke about earlier in the day when he tweeted about the issue. Rishabh is also now joining us. Rishabh, first of all, tell us what are we likely to expect from the engagement, if you have got some inside track on the exact agenda that is going to be discussed. And second, throw some light on the politics around this meeting as well.
Well, let's talk about the agenda. When the leadership level bilaterals happen, it's very difficult to preempt what could be discussed and what will be discussed in the meeting. But the sources indicates that what India has put on table and what China has put on table. So when it comes to India-China bilateral, what we are looking at, disengagement remains the biggest thing that both the leaders would discuss, given that the winters are approaching. Winters in the eastern Ladakh sector especially is very brutal. The soldiers die of weather and weather conditions more than in combat situation, and that is something that will be discussed. So disengagement, confidence building measures is something that both the parties would like to discuss. Apart from that, peaceful resolution of all outstanding issues between India and China is something that the discussion on them will begin, given that we have such a long land boundary with China and most of it has dispute from India and China. A new beginning to that direction will also begin. Apart from the bilateral issues, which will also include connectivity for that matter, given that China has been talking for long about the Beijing-Delhi air connectivity as well. Issues like Myanmar and Bangladesh are also expected to be discussed, given that the region affects both India and China. So confidence building measure, issues on border, way ahead from what agreement has been arrived and how things will move forward, and further high level discussions between the two countries will be discussed is what we are given to understand. But definitely, as in diplomacy, it's said that it's not done yet, it's done. So we'll have to wait for the bilateral to get over to understand how and what were things which were discussed. Apart from that, if we talk about the politics around it, see, in last 4.5 years since the Galwan happened, Congress and BJP have been exchanging war of words since then, and even today Jairam Ramesh went on to say that it's a DDLJ and it's not a movie. He says it's denial and the way finally, and he also goes on to say that we hope that the biggest, and this is from the statement of Jairam Ramesh, we hope the biggest setback to Indian foreign policy has an honorable resolution, and that is something that is coming in from Congress. The BJP has been attacking Congress as well for the 2008 pact between Congress Party and CCP, and so on and so forth. As of now, the politics on this is rife. Remains to be seen what the outcome of the bilateral would be. That will give new lines.
And most of the politics, Srinjoy, is centered around the fact that the government is not taking opposition parties into confidence when it comes to the minutiae. Tell us, first of all, the difference between disengagement, de-escalation and eventual demilitarization, because like Mr. Brahmachalani pointed out, how much of this is hype, how much of this is an actual breakthrough, something that can act as a building block for further engagement?
Well, first of all, patrolling is going to happen. Now, what happens is when an Indian patrol has to go ahead, it has to go right up to the LOP, the line of patrolling. Now, in Depsang and Demchok, the Chinese were blocking this. In Demchok, they had pitched a tent in front of the stream, which was the LOP. In Depsang, what they did was there was an area when that road narrows, and that's where they pitched something. So the Indian troops could not go. Now, once this happened, the Indian side said, well, we'll do the same thing. Now, what we heard from the Foreign Secretary, Vikram Misri, is that these processes will get sorted out. Now, the Army Chief has said that these discussions are going on and they will hopefully get sorted out. So we will have to see when it gets sorted out on the ground. Surely it will after discussions, since at the highest level, there seems to be a decision on both sides that, look, this has to be done. That's the first thing. Then it's a matter of de-escalation. You have so many troops right across the line of actual control, and thousands of troops, Chinese, with tanks, guns. I was saying that during that crisis, Galwan crisis, in one valley alone, there were 99 tanks. So there was a huge Chinese buildup, and they haven't gone away. They haven't gone back to their bases and all that. They are there. They are across the line of actual control, some distance away. But that's not entirely comfortable. Sure, we are not eyeball to eyeball as we once were. But even the presence of so many troops, 2,000 tanks at one time, that's not a very comfortable situation. So what has to happen is that these guys, these soldiers of the PLA and their tanks and guns and so on and so forth, they have to move right back to where they were roughly 4 years ago. Of course, the fact that Demchok and Depsang, we are hearing, are getting sorted out means that these problems predate the Galwan problem. They've been there 7, 8 years, I think. So the fact that we are even talking about the fact that they are going to get sorted out is a forward movement.
Yes, and there are confidence-building measures that are being spoken about. We'll also discuss what exactly can those confidence-building measures be. But let's first once again listen in as we wait for that bilateral to start in minutes from now to what Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said at the BRICS.
Your Highness, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, 16वें ब्रिक्स समिट के शानदार आयोजन के लिए मैं राष्ट्रपति पुतिन को हार्दिक बधाई देता हूं और ब्रिक्स से जुड़े नए साथियों का भी एक बार फिर से हार्दिक स्वागत करता हूं। नए स्वरूप में ब्रिक्स विश्व की 40% मानवता और लगभग 30% अर्थव्यवस्था का प्रतिनिधित्व करता है। पिछले लगभग 2 दशकों में ब्रिक्स ने अनेक उपलब्धियां हासिल की हैं। मुझे विश्वास है कि आने वाले समय में यह संगठन वैश्विक चुनौतियों का सामना करने के लिए और अधिक प्रभावी माध्यम बनकर के उभरेगा। फ्रेंड्स, मैं न्यू डेवलपमेंट बैंक के अध्यक्ष हर एक्सेलेंसी दिल्मा रूसेफ का अभिनंदन करता हूं। पिछले 10 वर्षों में यह बैंक ग्लोबल साउथ के देशों के विकास के लिए महत्वपूर्ण विकल्प के रूप में उभर रहा है। भारत के गिफ्ट सिटी के साथ साथ अफ्रीका तथा रूस में रीजनल सेंटर्स के खुलने से इस बैंक की गतिविधियों को बल मिला है और लगभग $35 बिलियन के डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स सैंक्शन किए गए हैं। एनडीबी को डिमांड ड्रिवन सिद्धांत पर काम करते रहना चाहिए और बैंक का विस्तार करते हुए लॉन्ग टर्म फाइनेंशियल सस्टेनेबिलिटी, हेल्दी क्रेडिट रेटिंग और मार्केट एक्सेस सुनिश्चित करने पर प्राथमिकता रहनी चाहिए। फ्रेंड्स, नए स्वरूप में ब्रिक्स $30 ट्रिलियन से भी ज्यादा बड़ी इकोनॉमी है। हमारे आर्थिक सहयोग को बढ़ाने में ब्रिक्स बिजनेस काउंसिल और ब्रिक्स विमेन बिजनेस अलायंस की विशेष भूमिका रही है। इस वर्ष ब्रिक्स के अंदर WTO रिफॉर्म्स, ट्रेड फैसिलिटेशन इन एग्रीकल्चर, रेजिलियंट सप्लाई चेन्स, ई कॉमर्स और स्पेशल इकोनॉमिक जोन को लेकर जो सहमति बनी है उससे हमारे आर्थिक सहयोग को बल मिलेगा। इन सब पहलों के बीच हमें स्मॉल और मीडियम स्केल इंडस्ट्री के हितों पर भी फोकस करना चाहिए। मुझे खुशी है कि 2021 में भारत की अध्यक्षता के दौरान प्रस्तावित ब्रिक्स स्टार्टअप फोरम इस वर्ष लॉन्च किया जाएगा। भारत द्वारा दिया गया रेलवे रिसर्च नेटवर्क का इनिशिएटिव भी ब्रिक्स देशों के बीच लॉजिस्टिक्स और सप्लाई चेन कनेक्टिविटी बढ़ाने में अहम भूमिका निभा रहा है। इस साल ब्रिक्स देशों में यूनिडो के साथ मिलकर इंडस्ट्री 4.0 के लिए स्किल्ड वर्कफोर्स तैयार करने पर बनी सहमति बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है। 2022 में लॉन्च किया गया ब्रिक्स वैक्सीन R&D सेंटर सभी देशों की स्वास्थ्य सुरक्षा बढ़ाने में मदद कर रहा है। हमें डिजिटल हेल्थ में भारत का सफल अनुभव ब्रिक्स पार्टनर्स के साथ साझा करने में खुशी होगी। फ्रेंड्स, क्लाइमेट चेंज हमारी साझी प्राथमिकता का विषय रहा है। रूस की अध्यक्षता में ब्रिक्स ओपन कार्बन मार्केट पार्टनरशिप के लिए बनी सहमति का स्वागत करता है। भारत में भी ग्रीन ग्रोथ, क्लाइमेट रेजिलिएंट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर और ग्रीन ट्रांजिशन पर विशेष रूप से बल दिया जा रहा है। इंटरनेशनल सोलर अलायंस, कोएलिशन फॉर डिजास्टर रेजिलिएंट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, मिशन लाइफ यानी लाइफस्टाइल फॉर एनवायरमेंट, एक पेड़ मां के नाम जैसे इनिशिएटिव लिए गए हैं। पिछले वर्ष COP28 के दौरान हमने ग्रीन क्रेडिट जैसे महत्वपूर्ण पहल की शुरुआत की। मैं ब्रिक्स पार्टनर्स को इन इनिशिएटिव से जुड़ने के लिए आमंत्रित करता हूं। ब्रिक्स के सभी देशों में इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के निर्माण पर विशेष रूप से बल दिया जा रहा है। भारत में मल्टी मॉडल कनेक्टिविटी को तेजी से बढ़ाने के लिए हमने गति शक्ति पोर्टल बनाया है। इससे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर विकास के लिए इंटीग्रेटेड प्लानिंग और इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में मदद मिली है और लॉजिस्टिक कॉस्ट कम हुई है। हमारे अनुभव आप सभी के साथ साझा करने में हमें खुशी होगी।